this is Ashley from the Design by So-and-So podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about all things fiber arts, so knitting, sewing, spinning, pattern design, just whatever I've been up to. So I hope that you can grab your craft and let's have a little chat. So today's episode is going to be a good old podcast catch up, just to let you know what I've been working on and what I've been up to. So just briefly, before we get started, I will get some of the admin stuff out of the way. I have a website, designbysewandsew.com, where I have knitting patterns for sale. You can also subscribe to sign up for test knit calls there. So if you're ever interested in testing my designs, that's where you can sign up for the newsletter. My patterns are also available on Ravelry. My username is designbysewandsew, and I'm on Instagram under the same name, Design by So-and-So. So that's where you can find me. And anything that I mentioned today, patterns, yarn, any links, they'll all be in the show notes below, so you can scroll down there. And if you like this video, please be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with me. All right, so you might notice I'm in a different location. We're actually dog sitting for the month. So we are up in Tofino on Vancouver Island, and it is just absolutely beautiful. At the end of this podcast, I'll put in some footage of some hikes and walks that we've been on. We've been exploring some of the beaches around here, and even though it's wintertime, it's a little chilly, it's been just absolutely beautiful walking around and exploring. And we have a cute dog that we've been doing it with too, so that's been really nice. So let's get started on the knitting. I'll just catch you up on some of the projects that I've been working on. I have one finished object that I'll grab here and show you. It's a test knit that I did, and as you can see, it's a very small project, so it went very quickly. It's a tie. So this is called the Perfect Gentleman Tie. It's a pattern by, on Instagram, she's Bespoke Knits by Cinzia. And yeah, I'll put her handle below, but this is a new pattern of hers. So it's a tie knit in DK to worsted weight yarn. And it was just really fun to do. I've been wanting to make my husband a tie actually for quite a while. I've sewn him some before in the past. I actually sewed his wedding tie. And I've made one out of leather, like really soft leather that I folded over and glued down and stuff, but I've never knit him a tie. I attempted to knit him one out of lace weight silk a few years back, and I just didn't finish. I'm not sure if it was going to turn out to be like the right proportions and measurements and everything, so that's stuffed in a basket somewhere. I should pull it out and see if it's salvageable. But this one is a successful tie, and I'm quite happy with it. So yes, this pattern will be released soon, and it was just so fun to knit up. You start with a provisional cast on, and you knit in the round. So it's a tube. It's double-sided, which is great for a tie because, you know, if it flips around or whatever, it looks exactly the same. And then you do decreases for the skinny end of the tie so that it fits nicely around the neck under a collar and can be hidden behind the front of the tie. I've yet to make one of those little like tabs kind of things. I'm going to when I get my crochet hook. I left it at home, so I'll do that later, but yeah, I'd like to just kind of crochet a little sort of loop that you'll be able to stick the back of the tie in. But this is it, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. I knit this using a DK weight yarn from Little Lionhead Knits. So it's a DK tweed that she sells, and this was like a one-off color. So every now and then she'll have sales on one of a kinds or like oopsie sort of dyes. I don't see anything wrong with this colorway or the yarn. I think that it's beautiful, and yeah, there wasn't any like imperfections in it, but it was a sale skein. But yeah, I'm very happy with the way that it looks, and it'll be fun to see my husband wear it. I'm not going to model it for you because I don't know how to tie ties, but you can imagine what this looks like on. All right, now I've got a couple works in progress that I'll share with you. One I just cast on a couple of days ago. Ever since I saw the Norma pattern by My Favorite Things Knitwear, I've really wanted to knit it. I really like just like the simple color work on it. It just has some nice like stripes and little 1x1 color work. It just looks like a very wearable design. So when she came out with the new Norma just recently, that was the one that kind of tipped me over, and I was like, okay, I need to cast this on. So the old Norma pattern is a raglan, and there's more stripes. I think there's 5 or 6 stripes, but the new Norma is a drop sleeve, and there's just 3 stripes. So yeah, there's something about the drop sleeve that I really liked the look of. It's very oversized and bulky. I think that it'll look really cool, with cargo pants or jeans. So I'm looking forward to wearing this, but I'll show you my progress. I cast this on 3 days ago, so I'm very happy with how it's going so far. So this is it here. It's a little bit of like a poncho at the moment. It's very rolly. It likes to roll up on itself, but I've got one pattern repeat on the back. See if you can see there. I finished that one pattern repeat and just need to knit a little bit in the main color, and we'll be able to join in the round. So I'll try it on for you if you want to see. Here it is. So yeah, you can see the pattern repeat in the front, and I'll show you in the back. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm sitting on the couch, so it's a little hard to turn around. But there you go. You can get the idea. So very soon now, I will join this in the round. Let me take this off and I'll keep talking about it. It is a very fast moving project. It's a 15 stitch gauge on 5.5 millimeter needles. So it just flies by, which is really refreshing. I've been working on a lot of like fingering weight, very like tight gauge, small gauge projects. And so this has just been so satisfying to see it just grow so quickly off my needles. So I'll tell you a little bit about the yarn that I'm using, and then I'll go into the project a little bit more. So the yarn that I have is Briggs and Little Heritage, and then Topsy Farms, I think it's called Topsy Twist. They are both classified as a worsted weight yarn, but honestly, they're very, very thick. I feel like they're more of like an Aran weight yarn. Yeah, they both use Canadian wool. Honestly, I think that they're spun in the same mill because they are identical. Let me show you them here. So they're a 2-ply, classified as a worsted weight yarn, and they're really rustic. They're a farm yarn. There's definitely like vegetable matter in them when you work with it, so you kind of have to pick out some sticks and like hay, bits of hay and grass and stuff like that. I'll actually put up a picture of what I picked out just last night, maybe like an hour's worth of knitting, hour and a half, but I had a little pile of like things that I'd picked out as I'd went. But I really don't mind that. I feel like it's just a reminder of where the wool came from. It was originally on a sheep on a farm, and I find it a little bit endearing to think about. It's also really like rich in lanolin, so it just feels so nice to work with. The cream, the undyed, is from Topsy Farms, as is the bright red. So these are both from Topsy Farms. And then this was actually an undyed skein from Briggs and Little. Again, I feel like it's the exact same yarn, which is kind of cool to be able to use both of them in the same project. So this one was an undyed skein that I actually dyed with avocado skins and pits. I boiled it in some water to extract the color and then dyed up this yarn. And it just made this like very light peachy pink kind of color. which I never knew what to do with this, just because like next to skin, I feel like it's not the most flattering color for me. If I were to make a hat with it, I wasn't sure what to do with it. But together with these other colors, I think that it just looks so pretty to have that kind of peachy pink with the poppy red and then the natural color. And it feels good to be able to use up some yarn that I've had in stash for a few years. This will be able to burn through quite a few of these balls, and they're big balls, so it's going to clear up some room in my closet. So as for knitting the new Norma, I'll tell you a little bit about the project. I've really enjoyed working on it. I find like the mindless stockinette is just kind of refreshing for me right now, but then there's just a little bit of interest with the stripes and the color work, so it keeps you entertained and motivated to get onto that next little bit of color work. So I've really been enjoying the process. As I've said before, the pattern is by My Favorite Things Knitwear, who she writes excellent patterns. I've knit a few of her others. They're so clear and concise and to the point. They're written really, really well in that way. But I'm going to tell you a couple things that are not my favorite about My Favorite Things Knitwear. So, not to be too picky, but there's a couple things that I didn't love about this pattern, and they might not bother you, so you can decide if you want to knit it or not. Honestly, I would recommend knitting it. It's been great, but just a couple of things that I noticed. So one of them was there's no schematic, and I've noticed this in some other patterns from My Favorite Things Knitwear as well. And it makes it a little bit difficult to decide what size you want, or if you want to do some modifications. If you can't just look at a schematic and see, okay, this section of the sweater, is this measurement, and then this section is another measurement. So for doing modifications, you kind of have to do your own math, figure out like what the row gauge is, and then figure out how many inches those rows would make, and then decide, okay, do I need to lengthen or not? Or just try it on your body and decide as you go. I feel like a schematic is just a nice visual as you're planning your project. And then another thing that I was surprised in this pattern is there isn't a colorwork chart. I'm a very visual person, so I love to just look at the colorwork chart and quickly know what I'm doing, see what it looks like, and then just knit away. This pattern just has written instructions, which honestly, the color work is so simple. Like it's just some 1x1 color work and then stripes. So the written instructions are sufficient. That's all you really need. But when I was starting, I would have rather just been able to look at a chart instead of reading through the instructions. I find the reading just a little bit more laborious. But again, that could just be me. Other than that, me being a little nitpicky, I love the pattern and I love the way that the finished knit sweater looks. So I can't wait to wear this. I'm hoping to finish this up before winter is over here so that I'll be able to wear it. My next whip is a vest, my second sample of this pattern that I've been writing up. And of course, I am halfway through a row here. So just let me finish this up so that I'll be able to show it to you better. Okay, I can show it to you now. So I had made one of these vests before in a red color, and now I'm making the second sample in this beautiful royal blue. And this is going to be my first garment design. So I've been writing up the pattern, I've been working with the tech editor, grading all the sizes. It's kind of killing my brain right now, but I'm doing it. I've been learning so much along the way, and yeah, it's been super interesting. But this is how far I've gotten on my second sample. So this is the back, and then we've got the front panel that we're working on. The front and the back is just joined at the underarms, just by a tiny little bit. Then the arms, the ribbing around the arms is knit, and the ribbing around the neck. And for this version, I am going to do I-cord ties. Just a cute little bow to tie the front and back panels together. So I have some of the I-cords knit up. I'll show you what a cute little bow looks like with them. Ignore the ends, but there you go. So I'm going to try 2 different ways of attaching the I-cords and see what's best to recommend in the pattern. One way is knitting these I-cords just individually, and then I was going to use the tail to sew it onto the garment where I want it to be. And then the other method that I'm going to try is on the front panel, I'm going to knit the I-cord when I get to that spot in the knitting. So it won't be sewn on, it'll just be part of the knitting and part of that front panel. So I'll see what works best. Maybe I'll recommend both, give both options in the pattern. But yeah, I just wanted to try them both out. So this has been more of a slow going project for me. It is half fisherman's rib in sport weight yarn on, I think I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles. So it definitely just goes a little bit slower, but I do like how methodical half fisherman's rib is. The boy wants to be let in. One moment. Come on, come inside. Hi, he's off camera. I'll see if he kind of creeps into view. But yeah, where was I? Yeah, talking about half fisherman's rib. I do. Oh, you love my knitting. I know. He's been very, very interested in what I'm doing with the yarn. He tries to steal my little yarn cakes every now and then. It's quite adorable. Anyways, that project, it's been slow going, but we're making progress on it. If you might be interested in test knitting this vest, I'll be putting out a call in the next week or two. So be sure to just sign up for my newsletter again on my website, designbysewandsew.com. I wanted to just briefly talk about some spinning that I've been doing, and then I'll show you some video footage of being up here in Tofino on Vancouver Island. So spinning. I didn't bring it with me, but I'll show you some photos and some video content of spinning my latest spin. I could not be happier with it. I'm so excited with how it turned out. So I used 2 different braids. This is my first time doing a combo spin. So I had one braid of South American wool from Spin a Good Yarn, and it's based here on Vancouver Island. And then I had a braid of Holworth fibre, and this was from Bramble Ridge, which is also a Canadian small business. So the one braid had like teals and pinks in it, and then the other braid had more neutral colors like some grays and some browns, but there was a little bit of teal throughout it. So I thought that they kind of worked well together, and I decided to give it a go. This is my first time truly doing like a long draw spinning on an entire skein. I really enjoy doing it that way. I also spun from the top of the fiber. These are all terms that I hope are correct. I'm still kind of learning. Sometimes you can split your fibers so that you're working with less, and then it's just, a little bit easier to work with. But I wanted the color changes to be really long in the yarn to kind of mimic like spin cycles dyed in the wool. So I didn't split the fibers at all. I just worked with the entire braid. I just went from top to bottom in one braid, same thing in the other, and then I plied them together. I tried to keep my singles really, really fine as I could, just so that the final yarn would be lighter weight. And after plying it and soaking it, it turned out to be like a fingering sport weight, which is the finest yarn I've ever spun. So I was really excited to see that. It was really consistent too. There wasn't a lot of like thick and thin. It kind of like stays between fingering and sport. I'm just so pleased with how it worked up, and I can't wait to knit with it. So I have like over 200 grams of this fingering sport weight yarn. Originally, I wanted to make a traveler's shawl, but I don't have enough to make the full shawl. You need about 300 plus grams, so this wouldn't be quite enough. So I was trying to look up some different patterns and get an idea on what I could use 200 grams of sport weight handspun in. There's a lot of projects that use a little bit of handspun, but I want to use as much of this as possible all in one project. So what stood out to me was the Metamorphic sweater by Andrea Mowry. I've knit the DRK Everyday sweater, which is the same shape as that, and it's one of my most worn sweaters. I really, really love the neckline and the circular yoke and just the way that it fits. So I feel like the Metamorphic would be great in that way. And I would have enough of this handspun yarn to use in it. So that's what I'm leaning towards. But if you have any ideas of what you would use this amount of handspun in, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious if there's another pattern that would be better. All right, if you've watched this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll leave you with some footage of beautiful Tofino, British Columbia, on Vancouver Island. All right, take care. Happy knitting, happy beading, happy sewing, happy crafting, whatever you're working on. I hope that you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time. Take care.